Welcome everyone joining from the main conference. Lovely to see you. Say hi in the chat if you can. Oh, we have Scott and Glennon and another Scott, Mark and Julie. Hi, Julie. Glennon and Eric. Oh, Christine's here. Hi, Christine. Yay. Excellent. And oh, Mark Lowndy. Nice. Nice to see all of you wonderful people.
Nice to
Hi,
be seen.
Sarah. Hi, Bryan. Yay. How'd you feel about the first part? Was it good? Lots of exciting resources.
Well done. A lot of good content.
Yeah. Oh, Rebecca's here, and Roxana and Sarah. Lovely. So many cool people. Well, welcome everyone. I'm just going to say one sentence and then I'm going to kick it to Julie from CSforCA. So my name's Emily. The kids call me Dr. M. I am here representing the CSforCA K-12 Teaching and Learning Work Group. And also my paid gig for that is I represent the California County Boards of Education. So I'm the CS Program Advisor, and I'll tell you more about that at the end. For this presentation, we have just a bunch of resources because we know implementation in K-5 is complex. Everyone's coming from a different place. So we have presentations on things like software, hardware, unplugged, and engineering, and standards, and implementation, and robots, and lots of different fun things in school time, out of school time. So I hope that everyone will find one thing that they want to explore more, and we will give you the supports for that at the end. So without further ado, I'd love to kick it over to Dr. Julie Flapan from CSforCA to introduce our session and ground us in thinking about equity.
Great, thank you so much, Emily. And I want to give a shout out to Emily and to all the educators who are on the call here to learn more about how to implement computer science education in elementary grades. It's something that we get questions about all the time. I just wanted to introduce CSforCA for those of you that aren't aware. There is a statewide group that you can connect with. We are a multi-stakeholder coalition. We have educators, we have administrators, we have higher ed folks, policymakers, equity advocates, all working on how do we really focus on expanding opportunities for teaching and learning computer science. And in particular, as we expand the pie for computer science education in California, how do we make sure that the resources and opportunities are directed to those communities that currently don't have the opportunities to learn computer science? So we're talking about making sure that we're providing resources to low-income communities of color, Black students, Indigenous students, Latinx students, students with special needs, both rural and urban students. And so our definition of all, CSforAll, is very expansive. And so you'll see we have a lot of different stakeholders at the table. With the next slide, you will see that our goal is really focusing on expanding these opportunities and ensuring that all students have them, with a focus on students of color. And that our goal is that by 2025, all schools will offer high quality computer science learning that will prepare students for college, for careers, and community engagement. Oftentimes we hear a lot about workforce needs, and that's certainly something that we want to respond to. We also want to respond to students who are on college pathways and career pathways, and we think computer science is really essential to build our muscle for participating in our democracy, of understanding how algorithms work, how there is bias that gets baked into algorithms, how we can amplify our voices through technology to use computer science to solve problems in our own communities and in our broader world. So the next slide, please. So through the coalition, CSforCA, we've developed a lot of great resources like Computer Science PD Week, which we've now called Summer of CS, and we're hoping that different county offices of education will adopt and adapt this model of learning, professional learning opportunities for teachers, for administrators, and also for school counselors. So if you're thinking, well, I'm a teacher, but I really want school counselors to be part of encouraging students to take computer science, there are a lot of resources for you there. My colleague Allison Scott from the Cape Horse Center and her team have developed a data tool. So if you're interested in identifying where are the equity gaps in your school community, you can go to our data tool on our website at CSforCA.org, and you can put in by district, by county, by school, and find out where those equity gaps are. And then we have our website where you can find all of these different resources. We have an equity implementation guide that was written by administrators for administrators to help troubleshoot some of the challenges and obstacles that we have confronted in implementing CS. And the way with the next slide, I think you'll see the way that we've done that is our theory of action is taking the input and experiences of practitioners like you who are implementing computer science, who are informing the policy and saying, okay, well, we can do computer science, but we need more money in the system to provide professional learning. But then we as a coalition are asking questions. What are the unintended consequences? How can this be a stronger policy? How can we prioritize equity and access through that lens that will then support implementation at the local level? So we look forward to working with all of you and highlighting the amazing work that you all are doing. We have a newsletter every month. So hopefully you will go to our website and subscribe and find out more resources and how you can get involved and feel supported through the state of California. And I'm looking forward to learning with all of you. So with that, I will turn it back to Emily.
Thank you so much, Julie. We're going to start going into concrete hands-on things. So I want you to please welcome Chloe and Fara Yan from CS Hands-On.
Hi, everyone. Let me get my screen shared. Cool. So thank you for having us. I'm Fara. I'm a high school senior from Burlingame, California, and I'm joined today with my twin sister, Chloe. And we're both very excited to share with you a project that we've been working on for the past year called CS Hands-On, where we create an unplugged computer science curriculum for elementary school students. And with CS Hands-On, we hope to promote equitable education to allow students without tech resources to learn computer science and also help students gain a more tangible sense of its conceptual ideas. Cool. So why do we start CS Hands-On? We started CS Hands-On to build a fun curriculum that would encourage students to start learning computer science from a young age. And another reason we started our project was to advance equitable CS education through our unplugged activities, especially for students who lack internet access. And since CS is such a rapidly growing field, we wanted to help these underprivileged groups and make CS curriculum that could be made accessible to any student. And in a broader sense, we started CS Hands-On to empower the next generation of coders and spark enthusiasm for computer science. So when developing our curriculum, we aim to create our own storytelling approach to make the lessons more compelling and friendly. And we decided that designing our own mascots and planets would be the most effective way of doing this. And as a result, we embarked to create a galaxy of unique planets representing 6 core concepts of computer science. And what we landed on is now our curriculum. We have 6 planets: Padaron for distinguishing patterns, Algorithmopoly to create effective algorithms, Logicland to think with logic, Abstractopia for abstraction or removing unnecessary details, Evaluatus to evaluate conditions and judgments, and Decomposphere to break problems into smaller parts. And each of our planets carry 2 to 3 activities taking around 30 minutes, ranging from games like hot potato using conditional statements to creating a dance combo with loops. And we also aligned each worksheet with the Common Core CSK12 and CSTA curriculum standards. So our 4 main focuses for CS Hands-On is making it interactive, accessible, collaborative, and interdisciplinary. So to make our curriculum interactive and engaging for students, we teach CS concepts through a storytelling approach with fun, wacky mascots that make learning much more 3-dimensional. And to make our curriculum accessible, all of our lesson plans and activities are completely free and available for printing, so students can learn computer science tangibly without internet access. Let's high five to that. Adding on to Chloe, CS Hands-On is collaborative. Many of the unplugged activities that we have involve working in groups, and we think this is extremely beneficial for creating a positive environment around computer science and improving students' social skills. And lastly, CS Hands-On is interdisciplinary. We take this approach by developing skills in visual performing arts in our curriculum to make these activities more approachable and diverse for students. So where can you find our curriculum and other resources? To answer that question, we have everything available for download all on our website at CSHandsOn.org. And right now we're going to do a little walkthrough of how you can download our printable curriculum. So first navigate to our site at CSHandsOn.org and then head on over to the curriculum overview. Cool. And then once you scroll down, you'll see a gallery view of our 6 different planets. So say you'd want to learn more about algorithms, you can click on Algorithmopoly. And what you'll see here is all of our lesson plans labeled as missions. And all of these missions have an overview with the duration of the estimated time it takes to complete it, the objective, and also the skills. So to view a PDF copy, all you have to do is click the worksheet. And for this worksheet, students will be learning about algorithms by building mazes. And all of our lesson plans also come with an educator guide. So educators who are not familiar with computer science can still teach our curriculum. And these include lesson annotations, different tips, and extensions that you can use throughout the lesson. So thank you for joining us to learn more about CS Hands-On today. And now we're going to open the stage to any questions or feedback that you may have regarding CS Hands-On.
Thank you so much, Chloe and Farah. We're going to put questions into the chat. Feel free to ask them there. And I'm going to move on to our next presenters. So if you can stop sharing your screen, then I can take it back.
Cool, thank you so much. And if you want to reach out to us, you can also reach out via email or follow us on Instagram as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chloe and Fara. All right, next we have presenting Cady Staff-Hwang from San Diego Unified School District. Tell us about your implementation, Cady.
All right, thank you so much. That was so awesome, Chloe and Fara. I was just enjoying exploring those resources. My name is Cady Staff-Hwang. I'm so excited and I feel so privileged to get to talk about the work I get to be just a small part of, but it's very exciting. So if on the next slide it has a oh, do I go? Am I showing? No, okay, sorry. I couldn't remember. Sorry. So we're working on CS program district-wide in collaboration with Coding Our Future and then San Diego Unified School District STEAM curriculum. So our roadmap is on the next slide that kind of goes through, we're trying to expose students in TK through 2nd grade within STEAM to robotics and coding. And then we got this EIR grant where we get to develop these units, which Dr. M is a part of and Dr. Beth Simon, and they're creating these units that are open source. It's funded by a grant, and so everyone can use them, and we're going to show you where they are available. And they are embedded also in the STEAM units for San Diego Unified School District. The next steps are going to be embedding CS units within ELD and ALD courses, as well as mathematics, so that by the time students get to high school, college, beyond, they all see themselves as programmers to really start closing that opportunity gap. So it's an opportunity that everyone can take advantage of. So on the next slide, it goes over what our model has been in that last year we piloted it with 10 schools in 3rd grade. This year, we're having 49 schools teaching it in 3rd grade, a smaller group piloting the 4th grade units. And the year after, in 5th grade, we'll have the units for the 5th grade teachers to pilot. If you could go to the next slide, I think there's 117 elementary schools in San Diego Unified School District. And the plan is that in 2023, all of the schools will be adopting the STEAM curriculum, which will include, if you look on the next slide, 2 units that in this case for 3rd grade are the orange ones that are focused on computer science, and 3 units that are focused on NGSS. So 5 units over the course of the year. And this will happen in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So every student will get 2 computer science units per year. So if we go on the next slide, it has the snapshot of this awesome curriculum. So it's bit.ly/CSFables, and I'll put those links in the chat also. And if you go to the homepage, there's a know before you go section that is for teachers who maybe can't even attend a training, that just are really interested. They want to teach computer science. You'll see there that it's a 7-week unit, including week 0. It's called CS plus Fables. There's a clue right there that it's connected with your ELA work and the standards in 3rd grade. It also really promotes this idea of being a lead learner. So having been a classroom teacher for 18 years before this, most elementary teachers, if not all, do not call themselves necessarily computer scientists or programmers, but after teaching this unit, they will, and their students will also. And so I've gotten the opportunity to get to pilot, help teachers pilot these, and they are so much fun. And I did not call myself a programmer before, but I proudly do now, because at least I kind of understand how to talk like a programmer, just along with the students. And so if you look at week 1, lesson 2, it has that first part is UCSD does, and it's a video where an expert comes in, possibly Dr. M, and presents a problem to the class with the teacher. So the teacher really is a lead learner with the class. The second part is the we do, and the teacher is the driver when the students are the navigators, and they solve a problem collaboratively. The line after that, you'll see this green strip and it says programmers say, and it's an English language development or ELD support, but really emphasizing that your like calling students programmers. You are programmers. We are all programmers together. And this is how programmers speak about their code. So giving those sentence frames so they can really speak about their code. The last section is that purple section, which is the bulk of every lesson, best part. And that's the you do, where students get to get into Scratch. They use TIP and C, which is a reading comprehension strategy to really understand and engage and explore Scratch. And they problem solve together. And that's where the teacher really shines in their lead, being a lead learner, because students will ask questions and teachers will not know the answer. And they'll say, I don't know, let's solve it together. Or who has an interesting problem to solve? Or who can share how far they've gotten, because coding is never done. And so we're always collaborating and problem solving together. So that's just a little snapshot of one unit. And on the next slide, it goes to the bit.ly/SDUSD STEAM website. There might be a different place where you can get these units in the future, but this is the one spot where if you go to the curriculum pull down, you can go to grade 3 and you'll see CS plus Fables and CS plus Data are already up and available. You can go to grade 4 and you'll see CS Community plus Community is there. Another one coming soon this year. And then next year, you'll go to the 5th grade and you can access those computer science units as well. And so it's just open and available for anyone to use. You could start using it next week if you wanted to. And just so excited to be part of this group working to bring computer science to all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cady. Next, we're going to have, there we go, Ashish and Alisha are going to share with us their experience of teaching computer science out of school time. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Alisha Jayamohan. I am a sophomore at UC Berkeley studying computer science. And then I'll let Ashish introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Ashish Jayamohan. I'm currently a senior in high school, and I'm currently going to Brenham High School.
Awesome. So we are both part of RAISE. RAISE actually started as an arts nonprofit. The letters stand for Reinforcing Arts and Student Education. But over the pandemic and now, we've realized that our skills are very now computer science centric. And so we wanted to share that with students as much as we could. And so now we're providing supplementary education to public schools. And our niche is that we want to empower high school and college students through teaching. All right, and then can we move on to the next slide?
Cool. Okay, so over this last summer, we ran 2 programs. And so we're just gonna cover like the main differences between the 2. So the first program that we ran was from June 7th to June 25th. And we had 15 signups. We advertised for about a week. So this was just kind of like our pilot program. So we're just testing a lot of things here. And around 7 students regularly attended. And our second program was from July 5th to July 23rd. And for this one, we had 30 signups and around 23 students regularly attended. So for both of the classes, they were aimed towards 3rd through 5th graders. And we met 3 times a week for 3 weeks. So we had 9 classes per program. And each meeting was just an hour long. And the way that we structured it was usually just a little bit of lecture in whatever we were planning to teach for a few minutes, like maximum 10 minutes. And then we'd break out into group sessions, or we had some assignment for students to work on individually. And so the instructors for this course were Andrew, who is another member of our team, but unfortunately couldn't be here today, and my sister and I. And then we had a couple TAs for that class, Natasha and Suleiman, who helped us organize that class.
All right, next slide. So the purpose of these programs were kind of to test out two different ways of teaching. So I have taken Computer Science 61A at Berkeley, and I noticed that the way they taught it was introducing computer science theory and then using that to build knowledge in Python and other languages. So for our first program, which was our pilot one, used Scratch as an introduction to CS theory. So we started off with showing kids Scratch. We started off with letting them modify projects that were already created. And this curriculum was designed by Ashish and Dr. M. And we had more like slideshows and maybe like screen sharing, Scratch as our lectures. Our program 2 used CS theory as a gateway to coding in Python and Scratch. And this used the first 4 weeks of Computer Science 61A. And the kids really were able to learn all like 4 weeks of that class, which was amazing. And the lectures were more interactive, where it would be like sharing a screen with notes and students would be writing them and asking questions, answering questions. And in addition, we had an advanced session for students who attended program 1. We had a couple people attend that one. And what was cool is we were able to teach them about recursion and like more higher advanced topics, which I thought was amazing. And then finally, we have one more slide.
Yeah, so some things that we learned from teaching this program.
Could we move on to the next slide, please?
Yeah, so some things that we learned from this program, obviously, was the importance of engagement in a K-5 community, especially with like the, I guess, 3rd through 5th graders don't really have the greatest attention span. So for these classes, what we had to do was create assignments and create challenges for every student, because we had some students who were really far ahead of the game and they had experience in whatever we were teaching. And for some students, it was like learning this for the first time. And that was really important for them to be able to define their own goals and define their own challenges, so that they were able to, first of all, be happy with whatever they created, learn something in the process, but also so that they were learning new things, and that they were able to like help each other on the way.
Yep. And then parent involvement. I'm sorry, I cut out for a while, so I don't know if this is covered, but parent involvement was really, really key to our program, because consistently communicating with them and informing the parents about what exactly their child is learning. So if we learned about assignment statements, you could, send out an email with some links that if they wanted to follow up with their child, they could do so. So yeah, that is another main lesson that we learned from our program. Thank you all for listening to us.
Thank you so much, Ashish and Alisha. And thank you everyone for allowing the students to go first so they can get back to their classes. I understand if you need to leave now, so this recording will be available. But meanwhile, we're gonna send it to my next presenter, Christine Hodges, who is joining us from Black Girls Code.
Hello, I'd like to screen share. Somebody needs to, okay. Hi, I'm a curriculum developer from Black Girls Code. I write lesson plans and sometimes I teach. I have a slide about why block-based coding, but it sounds like many of you are already familiar with that. You can check that out in the slides. Let's go straight into the Microsoft Make code. We use it for some of our lessons, and it's a great product. And so let's explore what we can do with it, with an off-the-shelf solution for a coding environment. With Microsoft Make code, there's an arcade game specific Make code, and then there's a hardware Make code for a product called Microbit. looking at the Microsoft Arcade, it looks like this, where your projects go up top and the tutorials are down in the middle. Tutorials is where you can learn how to use the code, but also get inspired. Okay, so let's see how I was inspired by the Chase the Pizza tutorial. I made the Chase the Pizza tutorial, except I made it into a taco, which may be more culturally relevant. I'm from Oxnard. And so I used the tutorial to complete this game. And you notice that the taco jumps around from position to position. There is a block here that has the position of the taco moving around randomly. And this inspired me to think of how can we turn up the educational content of this particular tool. We can use that code block. I made a separate game. And in this game, you're supposed to dodge the objects, the snake and the cat. The duck does not want to hit the snake and the cat. And so if you touch it, the game is over. So here we have use of the set position and the coordinate specification. So that's where we can get our math. That's where we can use our number line knowledge. And if more advanced thinking is Cartesian coordinate system. This is not the exact Cartesian coordinate system, but it can stretch their knowledge of it. And FYI, MakeCode Arcade is built for approximately ages 8 up, so grade 3 and up. Okay, so this is how I was inspired by the tutorial to extend it to create my own educational content. And that's the neat thing about coding. So let's look at microbit. Microbit is a small electronic device that has lights and sound and sensors such as temperature sensors and an accelerometer sensor. And MakeCode has a similar environment. You see the code blocks on the right and the simulator on the left. So you don't even have to have a microbit to do microbit coding. Microbits cost almost $20, but I can imagine running this. I had students with individual microbits, but you can share in a classroom like as a part of a station. People work on the simulator and then bring it to the station to put it on the microbit. So microbit is cool. So those are 2 uses of the MakeCode environment. I'll take questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Christine. I was really glad to hear you talking about physical computing because that's a good segue into the next presenter. Can you stop sharing your screen so I can have it back? Oh, I got it. Oops. So our next presenter is Bryan Flaig, who is, I just have to find these slides. Thank you for sticking with us all through all of the technical fun parts.
And I'm here, Em.
Yeah, okay. And I have you. Go ahead, Bryan.
Great, super to follow Christine on that. I love microbit. It's not fair to show tacos and talk about pizza right before lunch, but I love the game examples. So my name is Bryan Flaig. I was a district administrator working on STEM programs, and now I'm an education consultant specializing in K-8 STEM. So you can go to the next slide, Em. And actually, can you stop, Em, and just put me on the screen, and I'm going to show the actual robot that we're going to be talking about. So in what I've seen is that in pre-K to first grade, sometimes it's challenging for districts to find appropriate tools to transition students into block-based programming. So one of my favorite tools, and this is a tool that was developed by the same people, Marina Bears, who created, at MIT, who created Scratch Junior. This is a tool that she created for pre-K 1 that's screen-free. And I'm gonna pull down here so you can see it. So this is a Kibo robot, and I'm gonna turn it on here. And Kibo is it has a little wooden platform and 2 wheels, and then plugins where you can put in devices. This is a little LED light that plugs in, and it's read through these little a scanner reads these little blocks. So I'll pull these back, and I'll show you how you can scan a program. So each time you correctly scan it, there's a little beep with a little light that comes on. And when your program is ready, it blinks green. So I programmed it to move forward with the forward block. And so now I'm ready to execute my program, and I push the green button and it moves forward. So it's block-based, but it uses wooden blocks. And I found that these are really friendly to kids. I mean, kids are drawn to these because they're familiar. And the robot itself, for students who are still developing their fine motor skills, like they can grab it. It's got real thick sides and a nice wooden top that's friendly. And the mystery is taken away on the bottom because it's clear plastic. So they get to see what the inside of a robot actually looks like. And Em and I have developed some ways of getting kids to explore these through the Harvard's Project Zero. What's it called, Em? Help me out. Project Zero.
Thinking routines, parts, purposes, complexities.
Parts, purposes, and complexities. So this can even be done in TK. Okay, Em, can you show my slides? And then I'll walk through ways that I've used this in pre-K to first grade. So I've done this in, go back to the slide before that for just a second. So I've used this in informal settings where maybe we don't have class time. So maker spaces and lunchtime, and then even family events like STEM nights and coding nights that was brought up in the plenary session. And the keys that I've found for doing these kinds of projects with younger kids is making it engaging, which is pretty easy because kids love problem solving and they're natural storytellers, and you can weave that into robotics pretty easily. And then thinking about short time frames around stations, maybe with confined spaces because we're limited with our spaces, and then leveraging the standards. I'm going to pause, Em, and then you'll know when. So in one of our maker spaces, we set up a bowling alley, and this is part of the Kibo curriculum that they provide. So we set this up where kids could come in during lunchtime and recess and code the robot to knock down bowling pins. Pretty straightforward, but the interesting thing is the robot doesn't just go forward. You can have the robot shake or spin, and kids develop all kinds of different problem solving routines for the robot to do to knock down the maximum number of pins. And it's also collaborative because it's out in this open area in the makerspace. So kids tend to come in groups and want to problem solve together. Okay, Em. One of my favorite projects was using the robot with benchmark ELA curriculum. And there's a first grade unit, I think it's first grade unit called Now and Long Ago. And so we had kids build a covered wagon that was talked about in the story from just some makerspace materials, wheels and axles and some cardboard boxes. But then the engineering challenge was to connect it to the robot, to create a device that connected it, and then to have the robot move in a specific way. So we made little ramps, or the kids actually built ramps to pull the wagon over, around obstacles, and those developed into more complex coding challenges. Okay. And then aligning it to engineering, NGSS, I put the standard here below about pushing and pulling. So simple one was to design a snowplow that could push around objects, and you could have any sort of objects that were light enough that the robot could push them, and then just challenge the kids to put them into a certain space, push them out of a certain space, clear a certain area. Lots of open-ended challenges you could do. Okay. One of my favorite, though, is aligning computer science and robotics to ELA. I think this is just a huge, and I've seen this space explode in the last 5 years, since Em and I first started talking about it maybe 5 years ago, and then just to see what's happening around the country with this. So in this challenge, to get specific with what we did here, we had the kids read about how different animals move. We read a story to our kindergartners, and then they drew pictures of an animal from the story and taped it to the top of the robot, and then programmed the robot to move like that animal. And one of my favorite examples that when I was visiting one of these kindergarten classrooms, 2 girls were working collaboratively, and there was a polar bear in the story. And they actually, so they drew their little, it was a purple polar bear to them. So they drew a purple polar bear, taped it to the top, and then they used the blocks to create an ice wall. And then the polar bear rammed through the ice wall. So just to see their imagination and the places they go with storytelling is just wonderful. And I think that's the opportunities that open up with programming and computer science in the younger grades. And then of course, STEM nights are super fun to do with robotics. And I've done Scribble bots with 3rd grade through middle school. But then what do the younger kids do? Because their fine motor skills, they weren't able to thread the wires through and to get the particular parts working properly. So we used a robot and attached markers to it. And then at the bottom there, you see, we just laid out a bunch of white paper, that white paper that you have in those giant rolls in schools, and just taped it to the floor. And the kids went nuts, just programming the robot to make different designs. It was really wonderful. And we also gave away a book, The Most Magnificent Thing, in English and Spanish, depending on the family's choice. And so they walked away with a book, and they also had this connection with making something through computer science. Okay. And then lastly, this was a project I did with some pre-K students. The teacher had an existing lesson on designing art with recycled objects. And I don't know if you've ever given pre-K, TK kindergarten students the option to create something out of their own imagination with makerspace materials, but it's unbelievable to see the kind of abstract art that they come up with. It's just really wonderful to see, watch what they can do. And they want to do it for a long time. We had to cut them off at some point. But what we did then is we took these objects, so they had created these wonderful, personally meaningful objects, and then we had them attach those to the robot and create a bucking bronco activity with the robot to try to shake the object off of the robot. So we combined 2 different lessons here and wrapped it into computer science. And then lastly, I wrote an article about this to summarize everything I'm talking about today, and it'll be available through our slides in the link. And then I also have a makerspace, and I have it in the chat right now. I just posted it. And some of these activities are there, and also a lot of my philosophy around STEM and how to bring STEM programs into districts and using a vision-based approach. So thanks, Em. It was wonderful to meet everybody and to have a chance to talk today. Here's a few of the robots that I've seen used and I've used in different programs. But I'm not a salesman for Kibo, but I love the product, and I think it's really adaptable to the younger grades. So if I was going to recommend one, that would be the one I'd recommend.
Great, thank you, Bryan. And thank you everyone who has presented today. There we go. A round of applause for all of our presenters. Thank you. And if you want to stick with us, we'll do some Q&A if anyone has time to stick around. I want to leave you with this last slide. The state has standards. We have a culturally responsive and sustaining framework. And if you want to go ahead and add yourself to the who's who, that's a really great place to find community and to find people who are working on the same things as you, or maybe know different things, you know, so you can like find a researcher, ask a teacher or something like that. And lastly, the California County Boards of Education sponsors a computer science help desk. So you can contact me at any time. My email address, my phone number, my Calendly link are all up on this page. And I do office hours every Tuesday from 3 to 4. So anyone in California, teachers, principals, administrators, board members, anyone, if you have a question, come on and I'll find someone who can answer it for you. So this was a fantastic program. I'm super happy to see so many people here, and I thank you for your continued commitment to equity in computer science education, especially for our littlest learners. And that's it. Have a good day, everyone.
Hey, I have a question. I think probably would be best for you because you're all over the place. A number of these different sets of curricula use different block coding schemes, block coding platforms. What's the result of exposing kids to Scratch and make code and all of these different things that are kind of the same, but not quite?
Yeah, I think the big effect is in generalization. So that's one of those computational thinking skills, and it's related to transfer that we're really trying to kind of measure familiarity and mastery through. So if they're exposed to a bunch of different types of coding or ways of interacting with a computer, so, you know, block code in different ways where then so they have to use their literacy skills to figure out what are the types of things I can do and how I can put them together, then they aren't just exposed to one way. So they go forward into middle school and say, well, this is different. So I've never learned anything different. It's really important that they're exposed to many different types of writing programming languages and being the boss of the computer, so that when they get to middle school and they're going to have that peer pressure, they don't automatically, you know, tune out because they haven't learned to generalize yet or to learn a new thing.
Em, I could add something to that. This is Bryan Flaig. Is Mark, there's also that transition from writing computer programs that only act out on the computer like Scratch, and then physical computing with microbit, which I know you've done a lot of work with microbits too, but using those platforms to go from computer-based programming to physical computing is really great for students too, and on different platforms, so that they see that the computer can do something outside the computer also. I think that's really great.
I absolutely agree. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, so you know how to contact us. Thanks for coming. And I wonder if anyone's still around, if you can stick into the chat, what is one takeaway you have from today? Either something you've learned or something you're interested in exploring more about. This is the really exciting part for me, because we had so much random stuff today, all stuck together into one. Kivo, excellent, starting to connect with the community. Yes, totally be part of our community. The high school presenters were amazing, and they are my favorite. Thank you, Bryan, for saying that. Yes, there's a wealth of available curricula. That's one of those things that I like that John said in the main conference, is that we have a lot on the supply side. What we're working on now is the demand side and the capacity. That point Leanne made about building capacity is huge. Thank you. Oh, Cady has 6 new tabs open to explore. Oh, that's great. And let's see, there are many teachers interested in teaching CS in elementary school. Absolutely, we need to support them. Yeah, and California is, we're getting there. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of K-12 CS teaching and learning happening in our state. And we really want to get that. So it's all students. All students deserve access to this, because ultimately computer science is power. And it's the power to determine your own future and write the apps and solve the problems that are coming up. And all of our kids are capable of doing that and deserve access to that. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to close this out. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Bye.